Is there anything Bitcoin can't fix?
Yeah, things that are not a problem cannot be fixed by Bitcoin. So, I mean, there are some Bitcoin extremists that take things too far and say Bitcoin fixes everything. And while I sympathize, it's not true because some things don't need fixing. But if something is a problem, then yes, Bitcoin fixes it. So yeah, Bitcoin only fixes problems. If it's not fixed by Bitcoin, then it's not a problem.
I wrote the Bible and Bitcoin for you, Bible-believing Christian, and in it I lay out the biblical basis for what money is, why our current fiat monetary system is ungodly, and how Bitcoin is the best and most viable, biblically compliant replacement for government fiat money. There's even a small group study guide in the back with additional resources to study with your church small group. Get it on Amazon or pay with Bitcoin at thebibleandbitcoin.com for a discount. All right, everyone, I'm here with Saifedean Ammous, the best-selling author of The Bitcoin Standard and the Fiat Standard. And we got a couple of questions for him tonight. So are you ready for this, Saif?
Yes, let's do it.
Okay, here we go. First question. On a list of top 10 orange pillars, who do you think has orange pilled the most people, and where would you put yourself on that list?
I don't know, it's difficult to say. I think I'd probably say Andreas Antonopoulos is probably number one. If not in terms of the total number of people he's orange pilled, I would say it's the second degree orange pilling. Like he's orange pilled most of the first generation or second generation of orange pillars. So I mean, he played a big role in orange pilling me. So I would say he's probably still number one because you gotta attribute to him a lot of the people that came because of the people that he.
So everyone you've orange pilled, it's like a multi-level market. He counts for him too.
Yeah, although we probably should not be saying that.
No, we shouldn't. Yeah. Orange pill credit. Well, yeah. No, we shouldn't say credit either.
Yeah, no, in fact, I mean, maybe we should just skip this whole question because, like, yeah, I mean, he's a shitcoiner now, so.
Okay, where would you be?
I don't know. I gotta say, like, yeah, probably pretty up there. Like, a lot of people have read the Bitcoin Standard.
Top three, top five?
Possibly, yeah. If I were to be honest, I would say, yeah, probably top five.
I was orange pilled as a result of the Bitcoin Standard. Now I was into altcoining sort of loosely, didn't really care too much, you know. But then I was trying to learn about Bitcoin and I was like, man, no one could give me a straight answer. And I seen the Bitcoin Standard on Audible and I was like, I didn't think that's what I needed. I was looking for a technical book, but I didn't know what I needed was a more economic type of take on it. And so when I read that, it was like dumped all my alts and 100% into Bitcoin. So
I've gotten this story quite a bit. Like a lot of people get into crypto in general because a friend or a cousin mentioned it and they were curious, but it never really clicked until they read the Bitcoin Standard and then they understand what they're doing.
Yeah.
So yeah.
All right, so question 2, let's keep it going here. If you had to give someone one book, excluding your own, to orange pill them, which book would you give them?
Ironically, or funnily enough, I would say it would not even be a Bitcoin book. It would probably be a book that was written before Bitcoin even came about. It's a book called Gold Wars. And I think it was a huge inspiration behind the Bitcoin Standard. A lot of the Bitcoin Standard was written because of things that I learned from the Gold Wars book. So it's a book by a guy called Ferdinand Lips, and it's called Gold Wars, and it's about the history of the global monetary system around gold and how gold lost this monetary role in the 20th century. I think it's enormously important, even without mentioning Bitcoin. I think it'll have you ready for the right frame of mind for understanding why Bitcoin.
Yeah. All right, everyone, go out and get Gold Wars.
You can find a PDF online. It's an old book.
Yeah. I remember listening to the Bitcoin Standard the first time. I'm like halfway through it. Is this book even about Bitcoin yet? There's so much history and about gold and all that. So here's a question. This is just my own question. It might be a stupid question. It might be common knowledge, but anyways, I'll ask it. Did you orange pill Michael Saylor?
I mean, not directly. I only found out about him after his company had bought Bitcoin, and he'd read the book by that point. So I wasn't the one who orange pilled him directly, personally, but I know the guy who orange pilled him, Eric Weiss, and he says my book played an important role in it. And Michael Saylor himself says the book was instrumental. He says it in the foreword for the book.
Yes.
Basically, he says it was instrumental in formulating their thesis on why they should hold it as a cash asset.
Amazing. Here's a fun one. If you could orange pill one professional athlete or celebrity, who would that be and what would you tell him?
I think I'd go with Mohamed Salah at Liverpool. I'm a Liverpool fan, and I'm a big fan of Egyptians in general. I like Egyptian music, and I'm from Palestine, which is very close to Egypt. And he's an extremely popular person in Egypt and in all the Arab world and in all the Muslim world and in all across Africa and all over the world. He's an incredible athlete. And I think he's got a huge audience, so I think if he starts shilling Bitcoin, it would be a big victory for Bitcoin. And I think it would get a lot of people, particularly in the Muslim world, because I really believe Bitcoin is an enormously powerful solution for people in the Muslim world, because it is, I believe it's their Sharia compliant way of using modern money that can travel around the world,
Right.
but is not tied in with debt, which is forbidden in the Islamic way of thinking. So I think once the Muslim world gets the idea that this is money you can send on the internet all over the world, but it does not involve essentially disobeying your God's scriptures, I think it's going to be huge. So Mo Salah would be my pick.
Well, in one sentence, what would you say to him? We could tag him on Twitter, maybe, if he's on Twitter.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people are tagging him. I tell him that everybody today in the Muslim world, and I know he's a very devout Muslim, so I tell him everybody in the Muslim world today has to use money, which by its very nature involves usurious interest. So the mere creation of dollars or any currency in any central bank, as I discussed in the fiat standard, it happens through the creation of debt. And if you're a Muslim, you know, this has been a major problem for Muslims over the past century, which is you need to use money. You can't just not use money, but all the money that is around you is immoral against the scriptures of your religion. And so this is money that you can use that can't be stolen, that can allow anybody to store their wealth in something that is scarce, that doesn't rely on any authority, that doesn't belong to anybody, and it is compliant with Sharia law.
Yeah, that was one of the biggest revelations I had reading and listening to the Bitcoin Standard, was that this is moral money. And as I was listening to it, I remember at work, and these, you know, because I'm a Christian, so these Bible verses kept popping in my mind. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like Bible money. This is like money. And I didn't realize how immoral fiat was. And so when I got that revelation, it was a no-brainer. And I think what the Bitcoin Standard did for me was it took Bitcoin and crypto or whatever, because that's where my mind was at the time, but it zeroed it in on Bitcoin and allowed me to realize that this isn't about making money. This is now a moral issue. And after the Bitcoin Standard, I had no choice, because it really is a moral issue that we need to, especially for those who are devout, wrestle with.
Yeah, it's true. I was actually quite surprised by this. I mean, my book doesn't mention anything about religion and barely even touches on issues of morality, only in passing when discussing time preference from an economics context. But the book resonated very, very well with religious people. I was surprised that it, whether it was Muslims or Christians or Jews, a lot of religious people told me this very same thing, which is I found so much relevance from religious scripture to this topic, because I think it is a very important topic, and of course it's a topic that Sadly, religions have been not very good at offering good, decent solutions because, the scriptures in the old books say certain things, but then modern institutions have no coherent alternative to them for their followers except basically, go out there and get a mortgage like everybody else and get into debt and play the system as it is.
Yeah. One of the amazing things was how, the Bible talks so much about money and how to use money, but if you don't realize what fiat is, those principles don't work. Like saving, low time preference, prudence. These principles that are good principles don't carry over into fiat because fiat is a corrupt system. And so if you're prudent and saving and you're doing these things that the scriptures are telling you to do, you get burnt.
Exactly. And this is really why we can understand why this has been such a really upside down world, because virtue is punished and vice is rewarded.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Bitcoin Well is a non-custodial Bitcoin platform in Canada and the USA. That means every single Satoshi you buy goes straight to your self-custody. They offer free withdrawals, a simple 1% spread, and they have the Bitcoin Wishing Well, where you can win up to 1 million Satoshis by earning points and throwing the coin in the well. In fact, you get 5 coin tosses to the Bitcoin Wishing Well when you sign up at bitcoinwell.com/pastorcoin.
All right, let's keep this train going. Which dead, now they have to be dead, in the ground, not spiritually dead. Like, I won't name names. Which dead historical figure would most certainly, in your opinion, be a Bitcoiner today, and why do you say that?
It's a difficult one to say. I guess with most historical figures, if they made the headlines, they did it because they, if we still remember them, it's usually because they did nasty things. So, not many, obviously there's the propaganda for the historical figures that did it, that tried to justify what they did. But it's predominantly statist. So I guess, following up from the previous question, I would have to come up with something like probably religious figures. I'd say I don't know if maybe this is too controversial, but probably religious prophets would probably have taken Bitcoin, I think.
Yeah, well, most of the prophets, actually all of the prophets were quite. They were quite not comfortable, but what's the word I'm looking for? They understood what it meant to go against the grain, to have everybody against them. So
and I think you can find a lot of parallels in religious stories to essentially what Bitcoin does in a way that is kind of powerful. Jesus is saying, what is kicking the bankers out of the temple, saying what is for Jesus, what is for Caesar, and what is I forget the exact phrasing.
And give to Caesar what is Caesar, and to God what is God's.
Exactly. Yes. And so I think these are very much Bitcoin compatible
statements. Yes, I agree. I think Jesus would have been a Bitcoiner. I get some flack for that from the non-Bitcoiner Christians, but I think you're absolutely right that he would. There's no way he would stand for the fiat system, that's for sure.
Yeah, it doesn't get more powerful as a way of separating money from the state than just than Bitcoin.
Yeah. Okay. This is an interesting one. I'm very excited to hear who you pick. If there was a reward that was given out to the person who best exemplifies the principles, standards, and values of Bitcoin maximalism excluding Satoshi, who would you give it to and why?
I don't know, man. I guess, really, to be honest, there'd be no reward. It would be that there'd be nobody, because you give them an award and then it goes to their head.
Yes, yes.
And soon enough, they're shilling a shitcoin. So, yeah.
That's a good answer. That's a good answer.
The reward would be we all get together and burn the reward. And,
all maximalists get the reward.
exactly.
And the reward is Bitcoin. How about that for an answer?
The reward is you keep your Bitcoin, because
Yes.
we don't get to have a boss and then turn them into a single point of failure.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Perfect answer. I like that. And on the flip side of that question, if there was a reward given out to the politician, it doesn't have to be a politician, but I'll ask it this way, given out to the politician who best exemplifies the values, principles, standards of fiat, who would get that reward and why would you give it to that person?
I mean, there's so many outstanding candidates for that one. We live in a world, it's a clown world. It's full of clowns that are clowning out there because they're fiat funded. Where do you begin? I mean, since we're here in Ontario, I guess we may as well pay a nod to local contenders. The premier of this province is certainly up there. One of my most abiding memories of the coronavirus, corona hysteria pandemic that struck the world over the last couple of years was when Doug Ford basically locked down Ontario for about a year and a half and locked everybody at home because of an illness that mainly hurts people who have diabetes and obesity, and then went on TV and taught everybody how to cook cheesecake, which with massive quantities of sugar.
Do you remember what his shirt said?
We're all in this together.
Yes, we're all in this
I know it's an iconic moment, and for me, just this idea that you could be the person of an authority, you could put entire businesses out of business, you could shut down entire people's livelihoods, you could deny cancer patients their appointments with their doctors, and you could just put freeze on everybody's lives because of their health, and then proceed to just do exactly what they shouldn't, tell them to do exactly what they shouldn't be doing for the sake of their health, is just peak fiat world. And then if you read the fiat standard, you see exactly why it is peak fiat world. Because what fiat does to the world is that it separates the feedback loop of reality from influencing people's decisions. It just takes out the feedback that reality gives us. When you go and you do something stupid, reality punishes you. Fiat allows you to basically escape that punishment because the money printer absolves you of all of your sins. So it's no longer about making sense or being intelligent or being able to offer value to people in whatever job you do. It's about just serving the interests that want to keep the money flowing and want to keep the money printing going. And so that's why you get to be obese and you get to be the person who's in extremely bad shape, and you're out there making the world locked down, but for health. But you go and you tell them to make their cheesecake. So I think that's extremely fiat. I think there's a good case again for the Prime Minister of Canada, who's also done a tremendous job raising the banner of fiat world. But I also imagine, we cannot forget, like these people, they're still at a very low level of fiat. I mean, they're exemplary soldiers in the battle for fiat, but they're still lowly soldiers. As big as the belly is, and as horrific that recipe for cheesecake was, this is still low-level fiat. To get to the high level, we need to look at people who are involved in the financial industry who truly benefit. These are the people that would get like the MVP. And so there, I would say somebody like Paul Krugman, I think, would be a great example. He's really the embodiment of it. He's got a Nobel Prize from a central bank. It's not even a Nobel Prize. They pretend it's a Nobel Prize. So Nobel set up the prize. It's a fiat Nobel Prize. It is a fiat Nobel Prize. Alfred Nobel did not set up the prize for economics. The Swedish central bank came in 1967 and set up a prize in his memory long after he died. Nobody told him. It's like, hey, let's just tag along this prize in honor of this person who used to give out prizes. Not tacky at all. And it was the Swedish central bank, so it was the fiat cartel, the central bankers doing it. And he teaches at a fiat university, Princeton, and he writes for the most fiat of fiat blogs, the New York Times, the voice of the fiat cartel. And and he hates Bitcoin, and he looks like a sack of rotten potatoes. And I think he is truly everything that is fiat in the world.
Good answer. I agree with Doug Ford. It blew my mind that this individual was telling his constituents that closing gyms was a good idea when he had never donned the halls of a gym probably in his life. So that was quite ironic.
Yeah.
Is there anything Bitcoin can't fix?
Things that are not a problem cannot be fixed by Bitcoin. So, there are some Bitcoin extremists that take things too far and say Bitcoin fixes everything. And while I sympathize, it's not true because some things don't need fixing. But if something is a problem, then yes, Bitcoin fixes it. So yeah, Bitcoin only fixes problems. If it's not fixed by Bitcoin, then it's not a problem.
Fair enough. Do you really only eat meat? Like, really? Is that really? You never have an apple or a potato on the side? It's just, is this true?
Yeah. I'll occasionally have an olive, a pickle. Pickles are, because they're pickled, they're not exactly plant food. They've been turned into bacteria. So you're kind of eating bacteria, which is not quite plants. But meat and water.
So what do you tell people that say, like, that's very unhealthy? Do you even bother? Or
usually, what helps is, honestly, if you don't eat meat, you're usually not very healthy. So they look very unhealthy. So I just tell them, have you considered that maybe you're wrong? Look at a mirror, and that usually does the trick.
Is veganism the peak fiat diet?
Pretty much, yeah. You could say so, yeah. The whole fiat century has been trying to convince people to eat plants instead of meat because they can be produced and processed much cheaper.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, on that wonderful note, it's been Saifedean Ammous here with us in Windsor, Ontario. Thanks a lot, Saif. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, Alan.
Thank you.
See you.
Your family, your nation, and your world needs strong men. The devil wants men weak, emasculated, and addicted to porn. This is why I designed the Slaying the Beast course to help men take back the dominion porn stole from them. This course will help you discover your identity as God's image, how porn leverages and twists that against you, and how with God's help you can turn the tables on the beast and live free. There's also access to a Discord server where you can have fellowship with others in the fight. You do not have to wait any longer to conquer this beast once and for all. Go to lifegiverchurch.net to get started today.